he's going.
Spring of 2012.
But before we get to that, let's take a look back at some of the top headlines of the spring season.
Farmingdale stole the show on Long Island. The Dalers beat Ithaca to capture their first state title in program history. New York's third all-time winningest coach, Bob Hartenrath, can now add a state championship to his already impressive resume. The Dalers reached the state Final Four by snapping West Islip's 2-year run as champ and putting a halt to WI's 40-game win streak. The Dalers are the first Class A state champ from Nassau County since 1986.
It took 26 straight losses to get there, but the Wilton Warriors proved persistence makes perfect in Connecticut. The Warriors routed top-seeded and 6-time defending state champ Darien in the Class M state semifinals, snapping a losing streak against the Blue Wave that dated back to 1999. And the wonder didn't stop there, as Wilton took that momentum into the championship, defeating rival New Canaan 12-2 for the Warriors' 21st state title, first since 2004.
It was the year of the Huskers in Section 1, reclaiming their top spot in Westchester County. Yorktown's 14-5 win over John J. Cross River secured the Huskers' 34th sectional title. They've won 28 of the last 31 and have not lost back-to-back sectional championship games since 1976. Before bowing out in the state semifinals, Yorktown averaged an impressive 19 goals per game during a 5-game win streak.
The Hornets of Midwood High School are PSAL champions. They sealed the deal in Brooklyn, New York.
Call it a Brooklyn boys banner year. Midwood pulled off an unbeaten lacrosse season in the PSAL, capping it off with a city crown, a title hard-earned after losing in the 2 previous championships. But the Hornets are now king of New York City. The MVP, junior goalie Billy Ardamas. It's Midwood's 2nd title game win, and it had us all knowing just where Brooklyn's at.
Summit's the king right now, and until someone takes them down, they're still the title town in New Jersey.
Humble and modest off the field, between the lines, Bridgewater Raritan let its play do the talking. In the final of the New Jersey Tournament of Champions, Bridgewater Raritan pulled a stunner, knocking off the 2-time defending champs and putting the kibosh on Summit's 68-game win streak. The 6-5 Bridgewater Raritan win earned the Panthers a final ranking of 11 on the MSG Varsity Tri-State poll. After losing back-to-back games early in the season, Bridgewater Raritan rattled off 15 straight wins to end the year. Clearly one of the best boys lacrosse stories of the year.
Yeah, and the Panthers' historic run doesn't end there. With a great core of student athletes returning next spring, it seems the Bridgewater Raritan success story may just be in its first chapter.
MSG Varsity's Lou Brogno relives BWR's historic journey to a title by sitting down with 2 of the Panthers' brightest stars.
Mastriani shoots and scores. Tyler Barberich with a blast. Score. Scott Pita. Oh, a beautiful pass to Tyler Conan, who puts it home. And the game is over. The celebration is on as the Panthers claim the championship.
You always dreamt of being on this field playing for this game, and it's crazy that we're here, and it's crazy that we won.
Well, no question the top moment in New Jersey high school lacrosse. Bridgewater Raritan topping Summit in the TOC final and the Panthers winning the New Jersey State Championship. And joining us now from the New Jersey State Champion Panthers is Ray Mastriani, junior midfielder, and Scott Bita, junior attackman. Guys, thanks very much for joining us. Congratulations on winning the state title. Ray, let's start with you. What does it feel like to win the state championship?
You know, it's an indescribable feeling to just be able to accomplish so much and to have our hard work in the off-season pay off, and not only just ending Summit's streak, but just to accomplish something so great and work together as a team is just incredible.
Scott, in the closing moments of the game against Summit, they were frantically trying to come back, and you're taking a look at those closing moments right here. Describe what was going through your mind.
Well, it was a great feeling right there, throwing my stick up in the air, just seeing all my teammates going crazy. It's just a great feeling, you know. Everyone's so happy. It's a great moment for everyone.
Early in the season, you took on one of your arch rivals, Immaculata. They beat you. And then just a month later, you beat them in the Somerset County Championship rather handily. What was the turnaround between those 2 games? You guys seem like a different team, right?
I mean, you know, we really came together as a team. and we were out there and we made it clear to each other we're only going to win this thing if we work together. And it was more just playing for each other out there and doing what the coaches are telling us to do in practice, hard work in practice. I mean, practices would get more intense as the season went on, and I think we really improved and we gelled together as a team very well.
Scott, you have just about the whole team returning next year. You got to be pretty excited about next year, but expectations will be high as well. How do you look forward to 2012?
I think what we really have to do is do good in our offseason. I think everyone has to work a little bit harder because next year is just going to be as hard. You have to defend your title, and everyone knows that's just as hard. So I think we all have to work a little bit harder, train a little bit harder, and next year we'll be back.
All right, and then, of course, next year you guys will have some bullseyes on your back as well. How do you deal with those, Ray?
Hey, we just got to do what we've been doing. And, I mean, we've been playing this game since 3rd, 4th grade, and we got trust in each other, and, hey, we like playing up to the pressure.
Well, enjoy the championship. I know it's got to be a great feeling for you, and congratulations once again.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Ray Mastriani and Scott Bita from the New Jersey State Champion Panthers of Bridgewater Raritan.
Well, those two guys certainly appear to be modest, and they are, but I think they truly understand how big that victory against Summit was.
Good for them. Congratulations.
All right, thanks a lot to Lou, and we'll hear more from him as the recap show rolls on.
Well, throughout the show, we're going to be revealing our top 5 moments from the 2011 Tri-State Area Boys Lacrosse Field. And, of course, we begin at number 5 here. And it's a cross-state game that proves it's not how you start things, Jared, it's how you end them. After losing its first 2 games of the season, Westchester County Somers was looking to turn it all around against Connecticut's New Canaan.
After falling into an 8-goal hole against New Canaan, Somers somehow dug deep and turned things around in the second half. The Tuskers scored 12 unanswered goals to defeat New Canaan and pull off one of the greatest comebacks in school history. The victory proved to be the turning point of the season. It was Somers' first win of the year, as well as the first of several come-from-behind victories.
We knew that at halftime, no matter what the deficit was, we had a long way to go, and if we fought the little battles, we could win the war. And, you know, in this sport, one thing led to another. We won face-offs, we got possession of the ball, we made the right decisions, and it really turned out to be one of the greatest games I've ever been around.
Somers was involved in nearly every game this season. In fact, in 3 of the Tuskers' 5 losses, it only came by 1 goal.
Incredible way. What a great way to start off this 2011 review. Don't go anywhere, guys. There is still a lot more coming up.
Fires one home! King Tut! King Tut! His dad is loving it. He points up to Papa.
When the 2011 Boys Lac season review returns, our panel of analysts will reveal their Tri-State most valuable players.
And we are bringing in our MVPs. MSG Varsity's boys lacrosse experts and regional analysts will be in studio to start the great debates. That and much more on the 2011 Boys Lacrosse Season Review Special.
The best football players from New York City and Long Island hit the field for a one-time-only event as MSG Varsity presents the United Healthcare Empire Challenge. Join hosts Boomer Esiason and Mike Quick for all the analysis and all the action in high definition. The United Healthcare Empire Challenge. Catch the rebroadcast only on MSG Varsity, another Optimum exclusive.
Joe Lacasio to the back of the net.
Ho, ho, ho. Mike Francine.
The All-American comes through. Arthur Zitch.
Well, here's the fun part of the 2011 Boys Lacrosse Season Review. We get to talk with the fellas who have seen more Tri-State lacrosse than anybody else. Of course, Lou Brogno, Keith Irizarry, and our resident guru, Joe Lombardi. Fellas, over the next few moments, you're charged with the task of naming the most outstanding or most valuable player around the Tri-State area. Joe, in the sport of boys lacrosse, it's a little different in terms of what an MVP does than basketball, football, or soccer.
Well, I think so, Jared. Most people will probably tell you it's the guys that get the headlines, that score the goals, that get all the assists. What I look for in an MVP is the player that gets his team possessions, because basically lacrosse comes down to possessing the ball, winning face-offs, getting ground balls, laying out big hits. That is my definition of an MVP.
Well, we'll see if these fellas agree with you, Joe. And Keith, one of the guys we're going to talk about a lot throughout tonight's show is Case Mathias, who unlike Joe's talking about, knows how to score the ball better than most.
Yeah, you got to add that in. He can score, and he is the all-time leader in assists at his school. Case Mathias was voted our Tri-State MVP on a quick 60, and obviously for his team, for Darien, he goes out with a torn meniscus. They had beaten Wilton twice during the year. They end up losing to Wilton in that state semifinal, and the thing about him is he's just a junior. He'll be back. He's already verbal to Duke. And I just love the moxie of this kid, Case Mathias. He season ends. He was there. He was like an extra coach for them. He's an MVP.
And it was an unfortunate ending for him because obviously the goal was another state championship. But following the injury, Case told us and took us through the journey of where it all got started for him.
Over the summer and the off season, just going at it as hard as I can. I mean, we're sitting in the backyard right now where it all happened, where I just would sit on the walls here and just pound away with the balls and just stay hungry and always set new goals to kind of achieve for myself.
Well, certainly a class individual on and off the field. And what's great about Case? Another year still of high school left for him. Joe, I know that you think the world of Case Mathias, but there was another player that went on to win a state championship in Mike Francia.
Absolutely, and he is a prototypical MVP type in terms of getting the goals and the assists. But what I really like about Mike Francia from Wilton is he made his team better down the stretch when everyone was keying on him defensively. He wasn't just about getting goals. He made his teammates. He elevated the team. He became a playmaker when he needed to be. Bottom line, it resulted in a state championship. So the all-time leading scorer in the proud history of one of the most tradition-rich teams in the tri-state area, Wilton, goes out with a state title, and he'll be heading to Villanova.
Lou, to me, the coach of Del Barton should be the most valuable player because the schedule he put together this year might have been the most strenuous in the entire metropolitan area, but he had a few standouts as well.
Well, no question about it. And one of the primary reasons for the resurgence of the Green Wave this year, the play of their senior attackman, Clay Harmon. He was terrific. He has good size, a rifle shot. 41 goals, 18 assists for the Green Wave this season, and really, as I said, the primary reason for the resurgence of the offense. He reignited an offense that pretty much was dormant the year before. He is on his way to Holy Cross, and Clay Harmon, he's for real with the Green Wave.
And Lou, you're the New Jersey expert, but there is one guy I absolutely loved. He might be my favorite player in the entire tri-state area this year, based on the criteria that I talked about. He had one game where he had 18 ground balls. You got to love it. But then he'd take the short stick and he'd score goals. He had several 3-goal games. He took face-offs. He did it all. I'm talking about Ralph D'Agostino of Immaculata, folks. You're going to enjoy watching this kid play at the next level at Syracuse, Lou, because as good as he was in high school, I don't know if you agree, I think he's going to be even better as a major Division I player with those skills.
Well, no question. I mean, he certainly was the heart and soul of Immaculata's defense as well. I mean, he did it all for the Spartans. Had, I think, a better junior year than his senior year, but certainly he'll be a prime-time player for the Orangemen.
And when we talk about New Jersey lacrosse, there's no team that's a better story than Bridgewater Raritan. How about the play of B.J. Grill, one of the lone graduating players from BWR?
Well, you know, we talk about MVPs, and what's the definition of an MVP? Well, the player who means everything to that team, and that's B.J. Grill, the heart and soul of one of the stingiest defenses in New Jersey this year. A great communicator on the field, and really the captain of this Bridgewater Raritan team. And you're right, Jared, he is the one lone senior who's leaving the state championship Panther squad.
Well, it'll be great to watch that team next year as well. We'll talk more about BWR as the show goes on. Let's make our journey up to Westchester County, where Yorktown dropped down from Class A to Class B this year, and their catalyst to get them back to another Section 1 title was Ty Schultz.
We'll go back to Joe's definition of an MVP. Ty Schultz, a kid that could just do every single thing for them. At the beginning of the year, he had some injuries. He wasn't facing off. Yorktown struggled a little bit. And then once he became the guy in the face-off X, they really got it going. Obviously, Ty Schultz, you could argue that maybe he wasn't the best player on his team, but he was their catalyst. He was their guy. Mabus was amazing. Justin Mabus, his childhood friend, headed to Towson, and Frankie Fusco, the young guy there. And obviously Dave Marr has run a fantastic program. And what they've done is they've taken all of these great players and moved it into just a continuous dominance in Section 1. And I just love Ty Schultz. He'll head to Hartford as well.
And we talk a lot about the great attackman. I'm glad you picked a midfielder here because, Keith, you saw a lot of Yorktown this year. And I tell you what, that might have been the best 1-2 midfield combo with Schultz and Mabus that Yorktown has had in a long time.
Joe, it was obvious that they knew each other for a long time.
Yep.
63% from the faceoff X, a pretty outstanding number for Ty Schultz, certainly.
Yeah, who only took Jared. You saw the stat today before he came on air.
4 of 8 last year.
Yeah, incredible.
This year doing a great job.
Only took 8 faceoffs last year and to have that kind of performance.
All right, earlier in the show, you saw our number 5 moment of the year from around the tri-state. Now we're going to go to New York City and talk about our number 4 moment and take a look at Poly Prep taking on Hackley for the 3rd time this season, this time for a championship. And unlike the first 2 games in the season, it went to Poly Prep. 11-9 on May 25th. The first title since 2006. It was Poly Prep picking up the independent title. And Joe, certainly a great year for the Brooklyn school.
It really was. Only 3 losses, twice to Hackley during the regular season, and to come back when it mattered to win the game. Just a tremendous effort. But I tell you what, great year for Hackley, too, even though it obviously lost the big one to beat them twice during the regular season, Poly Prep. I really like the midfield of this Hackley team. Teddy Seam was outstanding, and a kid, Jabran Ahmad, who you folks should really keep an eye on next year. He is committed to Dartmouth, a tremendously athletic and skilled player. When you have that combination, you're very talented.
Well, Joe, that was a great moment. There was a lot more great lacrosse from New York City as we're seeing the evolution of the 5-borough lacrosse scene. And for more on that, Shauna and Jimmy, let's talk about it.
Well, Jared, thanks so much. We will continue to count down our top moments throughout the show, but right now joining me is the one, the only MSG Varsity's Jimmy Cavall. You've heard his voice call some of the biggest games across our tri-state region here on MSG Varsity. Jimmy, we got to bring it in to break down your MVPs now.
First time ever for you and I on the set here, right? It's been a long time coming.
We've been we've been waiting for this moment, and I'm really excited to be doing it right now, right here, because you heard the guys on our panel talk about their MVPs in Connecticut, New Jersey, and in the Westchester Hudson Valley region. But when it comes to New York, there is a lot more surface area to cover other than just Section 1 and Section 9. So let's head right into New York City. An MVP, when you start talking about it, there's a guy in the 5 boroughs who not only is getting nods for his lacrosse skills, but for some great hair.
He does. Arthur Zitch looks like one of those guys straight off Laguna Beach with Sally Tuttle. But the first thing I said to Arthur Zitch when I saw him play, he goes to Midwood High School right there in the heart of Brooklyn, is how does a guy who grows up in Brooklyn learn to play lacrosse like this? I mean, folks, look at this guy, the skill set. Both hands, through the legs, nothing the All-American can't do. Arthur Zitch is going to try to walk on at Hofstra. It's going to be a mighty quest for Mr. Zitch. But what a ride he had leading Midwood to that city championship. He looks like a Long Island lacrosse player. I mean, he really does.
Where Brooklyn at? Come on, they can do it all, Brooklyn boys. They know how to get it done. All right, so let's go from New York City to Long Island. Now, we heard our other panel of experts talk about how they define MVP, and I know in discussions we've had, I really like how sometimes you say MVP for you is someone who really knows how to turn it up a notch, you know, go from level 5 to level 10 at that right moment. And on Long Island, St. Anthony's, Joe Lacasio, he really knows how to do just that.
It's always the MVP argument. Is it Alex Rodriguez all those years with the Mariners, or is it Derek Jeter who leads his guy to championships? So when you look at Joe Lacasio does one thing better than anybody. He scores big goals at big moments. You look at the Catholic Championship a year ago, down 1, final seconds to Chaminade, he ties the game up. In this year's championship, end of the second quarter, close game. You know, the seconds are ticking down in these quarters. These are big moments to score goals. He tucks one in, they go into the half with a 2-goal lead. End of the third quarter, scores another goal. Guys who score goals at the end of quarters just gets everything going for that next quarter straight ahead.
All right, we're not done with Long Island. You said Arthur Zitch, he gives everyone a run for their money in terms of lacrosse skills and good hair, but what about Sal Tuttle? You alluded to that. The guy has both, you know, he gets nods for both as well.
We love Sally, man. He's like a movie character. He's got the swagger, he's got the charisma, but you know what he's got? He's got the game. 60 assists this year. We hear all about he's the quarterback of the football team. He's the quarterback of the lacrosse team. It was Sal Tuttle who tied the West Islip game in the Long Island Championship. It's Sal Tuttle who gets so much going for this Farmingdale team, and he's got that personality to go along with it.
He really does. You know, another guy that has to be very pleased with the performance of Sal Tuttle has to be Coach Bob Hartreff, taking home that first state title, of course. And, I mean, he's got a lot of love for Sal Tuttle. How can you not?
You know what? Bob Hartraft became the story of the season, in my estimation, in lacrosse. Because here's a guy, grew up in Oswego, New York, never played lacrosse. He was a baseball guy. Came to Long Island, started coaching the sport. 42 years he's been in Farmingdale. You know, he's won 13 Nassau County titles. Only 2 Long Island championships coming into this year. It's been a huge void. But you know what? 7 times he's lost in the Long Island Championship. Those 7 teams went on to win the state title. He's always had that problem of escaping Long Island. But as soon as he got past West Islip this year, it was like this growing sentiment between teams, coaches, fans, media members. Let's get that first state title for Farmingdale. 42 years, 653 wins. And they went up there and got it done. And I tell you, everybody felt like a Daler last weekend when the news came down that Farmingdale finally had that state title. It makes sense. A guy who's been doing it as good and as long to finally have that under his belt.
Well, Jimmy, it is very clear you have a lot to say about this, and we will continue on.
Are you saying I'm long-winded?
We have a full hour, so don't you worry. We want to hear it all,
I'm not going
guys.
anywhere.
Don't go anywhere. Jimmy's returning, as well as our panel of experts, coming up next on this special Boys Lacrosse Season Review show. Our panel is going to be talking turnarounds, the teams that took lemons and made lemonade, and then made state title runs, perhaps. Who do you think our experts say deserve their praise? And coming up later in the show, we will reveal our MSG Varsity All-Star team. That and much more on this Boys Lacrosse 2011 Season Review special.
Become one of MSG Varsity's summer stars, and you could win an Xbox 360 with Connect. Go to msgvarsitysummerstars.com or visit our Facebook profile to vote. The first 10 entries to hit 2,500 votes will win great prizes, including Amazon gift cards and Ray-Ban sunglasses. The top 16 schools will be entered into a special face-off contest, and the winning school will win a one-of-a-kind MSG Varsity Back-to-School Bash. It's your big chance to become one of MSG Varsity's summer stars.
Shoots and scores again. Here's a rip. Beam me up, Scotty.
De Blasio, shot to go.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the 2011 Boys Lacrosse Season Review Special. I'm Shauna Ryan. Joining me once again is MSG Varsity's Jimmy Cavallo, and the topic we're going to tackle right now, Jimmy, is turnaround teams. And I want to start in Connecticut. You know, your bestie is Mr. Mike Quick. He's a Connecticut guy. You've been all over the scene there in the Nutmeg State. And when we talk turnaround teams there, it's not just relegated to just the one season, a singular season, especially with a team like Wilton. You've got to go back decades to talk about the turnaround there.
Yeah, you really can't call Wilton a turnaround program. I mean, when you look at NHL hockey, you have the original 6 teams. Well, Wilton is like one of the original superpowers when it comes to boys lacrosse. But, you know, listen, with all the titles they won there with Guy Whitten, they hadn't won a title since 2004. They hadn't beaten the Blue Wave of Darien since 1999. You're looking at video of their state semifinal victory over Darien. So for this group of Wilton Warriors to come through this year, for their Hall of Fame coach, John Wiseman, who was a great player there in his day, and to win that state title, it sort of filled a void for the Wilton lacrosse fan. It felt good. They were state champs once again. So a turnaround may be a stretch, but Wilton is back.
But an emphatic team, maybe that's what it is. What about Ridgefield, though? You know, getting its first state title, is that kind of a turnaround because they finally got it done?
Well, now they're part of the group, right? I mean, there's sort of this club of high school lacrosse teams in the state of Connecticut, you know, Darien and Wilton, and we talk about them all the time, Greenwich. And now here comes Ridgefield a couple of years ago. Did you see Matt White win a national championship with Virginia this year? Well, 2 years ago, he won their first FCAC title, but they lost the state final. But this year, with their legendary coach, Roy Colsey, this group of Tigers closed the whole deal. Sean Wilkinson got that game-winning goal, and what a celebration that set off for the Tigers. So now, in Connecticut, here's Ridgefield now. They're part of that group, too.
A lot of great players part of that conversation now. You know, Connecticut isn't the only one with their group of turnaround teams or teams that have done an about-face on some level. Over on Long Island, there's a team that proved no matter how young the program is, really, Phantoms, they need to be feared.
There was not a better half of lacrosse that we saw than Bayport Blue Point's first half against Cold Spring Harbor in the Long Island Championship. Hey, listen, I was one of the guys, put me on the list. The Phantoms have no chance to beat Cold Spring Harbor in this game. Well, you know what? dead wrong, baby, because they were awesome. And to see them celebrate on the field at Stony Brook, you really looked at it and you said, man, this is nice. Here's a group of kids, you know, together. This program, only 8 years young. Nobody really gives them a chance. They came in and just put on a flat-out show at Stony Brook. And to see that trophy celebration, and when you said, hey, now they're part of that exclusive Long Island club of Long Island champs.
It was a great moment. And, Jimmy, we're going to continue to talk turnaround teams as the show goes on here. But now we're going to talk about our third best moment on the boys lacrosse field in 2011. And at number 3, it's the theme of threes. And I'm talking about the CHSAA AAA championship between St. Anthony's and Chaminade. After losing twice to Chaminade in the regular season, the Friars of St. Anthony's strapped up and took care of business the third time around. And it all went down in the game that mattered the most, the Catholic League Championship. The two-time defending champs toppled Chaminade 12-10. These two have dominated the championship for the past 24 years, and since 2000, they have been the other's runner-up every year except for one. And St. Anthony says, you know, in 2011, the third time really was a charm.
They got us 2 out of 3 times, but we all know May 26th, this is what counts. This is the one that we have to win. We came out with it, and this is it's a three-peat right now. We're feeling great over in South Huntington.
So senior year leaving here, we had 2 before this. We won the third. And you know, it was awesome for coming off with football championship, and now this one for the seniors.
Yeah, but what speaks to the rivalry of these two teams? You heard Greg Dang-Siglio, the Virginia-bound defender, talk about three-peat, what it's like to win 3 in a row. Remember one thing. Before this three-peat by St. Anthony's, Chaminade had won 4 in a row in this epic series. I mean, what's your favorite trilogy? They played 3 times this year. It's a trilogy every year, and you look forward to every one of the games.
I love it. So it's The Godfather, The Matrix, you know, Lord of the Rings, or Chaminade and St. Anthony's going toe-to-toe in the championship.
But unlike The Godfather, because Godfather 3 was terrible.
Okay, all right, Jimmy. Well, that's a good segue for us to leave here, all right? We got
I'm going to make her an offer she can't refuse.
We have to keep talking turnaround
Take the gun,
teams
leave
here.
the cannolis.
Please get out of
Whatever
here.
it is.
We got to hand it over to Jared and the rest of our panel experts, please.
Don't shoot us, Jimmy. Don't shoot us, all right? How about Rocky 3? That was pretty good, no? Jimmy's most happy about that St. Anthony Chaminade only lasted 1 day as opposed to 2 days like last year. Back along with Lou Brogno, Keith Arizari, and Joe Lombardi talking about those turnaround teams. And Keith, when you talk about Fordham Prep Athletics, who has a great history, when Vince Lombardi goes to your school, you know you can talk about that. But you talk about the fact that this is a baseball and soccer school. But this year, lacrosse was king.
Yeah, they were. They were 9-11 last year, and they seemingly always lost to Iona Prep. So they knocked them off twice in the regular season. They end up seeing them in the New York Catholic League championship game, and they slayed that dragon finally in that championship game. This was a very well-balanced team, juniors and seniors. Chris Smith and Ben Andrasak, both kids had more than 50 goals. They got a fantastic coach in Len DeLucia. And one of the things I really loved about this team, too, is they played a very tough schedule. They were battle-tested when it counted.
Yeah, they went out to Long Island a couple of times, too, and they got beaten up by Comswag. But I think, Joe, that taught them a lesson because after losing to Comswag, they didn't lose again until having to play Chaminade and St. Anthony's back-to-back.
Yeah, common theme, Jared, of a lot of these teams that had sustained postseason runs, tough schedules. Yeah. And there's no question, Fordham Prep, coming off a rough year, challenged itself with a very difficult schedule, and it paid off in the end.
When you talk about Bergen County lacrosse in New Jersey, it started with Ridgewood. They've been a traditional power. 2010, not very good to the Maroons, but 2011, wow, what a year.
Well, a huge turnaround in Jersey this year with the Ridgewood Maroons. Last year they were 7-10, their first losing season in over 20 years. This year they finished 15-6, including winning 9 of their last 12 games, and it all started on a rainy April afternoon, a huge win over the Lakers of Mountain Lakes. That really got it going for Ridgewood, and they excelled the rest of the season. So Ridgewood, a team, again, you know, coming off a 7-10 year. Offense was a problem a year ago, but this year, Van Jorgensen led the way for the Maroons. And sometimes the biggest turnarounds are not from year to year, but during the season. First time Immaculata and Bridgewater Raritan played, the Spartans defeated the Panthers. A month later, the Panthers were a much different team. And in the Somerset County Championship, Bridgewater Raritan dominated that game. And of course, then just a couple of weeks later, in the state semifinals, Bridgewater Raritan turned in a repeat performance on their way to an eventual state championship.
And Lou, a lot of big turnarounds in Jersey this year. And there's one program I know a lot of folks, myself included, probably thought we'd never thought would have a turnaround, and that's Del Barton because they're always so good. But Del Barton coming off a subpar 9-8 season last year, lost in the first round of the non-public B playoffs. So what do they do this year? They go 17-5, win non-public B, and then go all the way to the T of C semifinals, where they lose a tough one to Summit. Kid I like on this team, you talk about Clay Harmon, John Schaefer, midfielder, bound for Duke.
It's a Del Barton team that's averaged about 19 wins over the last 6-7 years. With 9 wins a year ago, you're scratching your head, as you talked about, but certainly a great bounce back this past year. Joe, up in Westchester County, Byram Hills exploded onto the scene this year.
Yeah, you know, Jared, Byram Hills was a team under former coach Rich Caputo that did very well in the 1980s, and now it has returned to its glory days. How did the Bobcats do it? I think it started in goal with one of the top goaltenders in the region. His name is Andrew Larrabee. He is a junior, and he just committed to the University of Notre Dame.
And Joe, the fun thing about Byram Hills, it was a fantastic school calendar year for them. Soccer sectional champs, and of course boys basketball, they made that run. So if you were a fan of Byram Hills, you got an opportunity to see a lot of championships this year.
I think that was a common thread throughout the tri-state area this year when a group of